Okay, so we all know that Vanguard is the investment company for the average Joe. And if you didn't know that, you should definitely check out my Vanguard video where I talked about everything you need to know about why Vanguard. I've linked to that video in the description below. But if you're ready to invest right now, maybe you've already opened an account with Vanguard, or maybe you've opened an account with a different brokerage company, but you're ready to buy Vanguard investments, whether they be mutual funds or exchange traded funds, then this video is for you. Yes, you. I'm pointing at you. In this video, I'm going to present to you different Vanguard Index Fund strategies that you can incorporate into your investment portfolio like today. I have a portfolio for every single one of you, depending on your risk profile, how comfortable you are with potentially losing money, how much time you have left to invest before you retire, and how much you still need to invest before you can retire. Make sure to stick around all the way to the end of the video, guys, because I promise you I've got an index fund strategy for every single person out there. Plus, you guys should always watch to the end of the video because you never know how many times my kids, while playing video games or arguing, are just gonna barge right through that door and just ask me a question even though I've told them that I'm shooting a video. If you value my videos, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, but more importantly, hit that subscribe button below. It's free to do, and you can join the average Joe investing community. And if I don't earn that subscription, then go ahead and unsubscribe by the end of the video. So if you're ready to go, great. And if you need to pause, grab something to drink really quick, I would drink a beer with you on the video. However, I'm on a diet right now and I'm in the process of losing some weight, and that includes being alcohol free since January 1st. And I'm down about 7 pounds already. So for me, I'm actually gonna be drinking here, let me do this slowly here, some cup of hot coffee right now. I just realized that says cool mom. You know, the me of, a year ago would have reshot this video, but I think you can appreciate the fact that I don't care what kind of cup I'm using. Oh, and by the way, if you think that I don't need to lose weight, here is a video of me in October of 2019, ironically also talking about Vanguard Index Funds. However, you can clearly see that my face has gotten a little fatter over the time. Point is, let's get out of this intro here. Let's start talking about Vanguard Index Funds, 7 different index fund strategies to incorporate from Vanguard today. Let's go. All right, guys, so we're here on the Vanguard website. Let's go ahead and jump right into the content here. The very first Vanguard Index Fund investing strategy I'm going to present to you is the one fund portfolio. Very simple, very straightforward. It's for the person who...
How much do you have left?
Oh my goodness, dude. You just walked right into my video. There's a timer going on the microwave. For the person who's got a long time frame, for somebody who is not really concerned about losing money in the short term if they know they've got a long-term investment strategy. And so this strategy involves utilizing either the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund or the Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund. All right, so the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund is the one you're probably most familiar with. If you know anything about Vanguard, that is VTSAX, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund Admiral shares. And just a quick bio here. I've done a number of videos on this, so you can check it out on my channel, but the VTSAX is the total stock market. All of the large, mid cap, small cap, all the big, medium, and small size companies out there in the United States. It's got over 3,500 different stocks in the portfolio, and it's a cap weighted index fund, meaning that the largest companies in the United States have the largest weighting in this fund. A couple things to know here about VTSAX. It does have a $3,000 minimum initial investment, though ongoing contributions can be as little as $1 every week, every month, whatever you want to do. They also have an expense ratio of 0.04%, which is essentially $4 for every $10,000 invested in the fund. I mean, that's quite a small expense to have great diversification with this fund. If you're gonna buy VTSAX, you have to have a brokerage account or a retirement account with Vanguard, unless you wanna pay hefty fees by buying this fund from it while investing with a different company. That being said, you can also purchase the ETF version, exchange traded fund, same underlying assets, but it trades like a stock. I've got a number of videos about the differences between ETFs and mutual funds on my channel, so check those out if you're curious. But you can also purchase the ETF, and that is VTI. You can click on this link right here to go to the ETF. Same fund, ticker symbol VTI. It does have a slightly cheaper expense ratio, very negligible though, 0.03%, but the minimum cost to invest is just the cost of one share, and that is $198.77 as of January 15th. You can see here for the portfolio, 3,634 holdings. Go down a little bit further here, you can see that the top 10 holdings represent 23.3% of the portfolio. You've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, and Visa. And if you scroll down here, you can check out the month-end top 10 holdings with weighting. You can see here the top 10 holdings with weightings. You've got Apple at 5.3%, Microsoft 4.4%, 3.6, 2.7, 1.7. Those top 10 assets in the holding of 3,600 funds. The top 10 get 23.3%. So yes, it's diversification, not quite as much as you might think though. $10,000 invested in the total stock market index fund would be worth, 10 years ago, $10,000 would now be worth a little over $35,000 today. So that's a great investment over 10 years. And then you've got the 1-year return, 21.05, 3-year, 14.5, 5-year return on average every year, 15.44%. 10-year return on average every single year, 13.78%. And since 2001, when it was created, the fund has yielded on average every single year 8.25%. And then we've got a very similar fund because of the market capitalization, which I'll explain in a second. We've got the Vanguard 500 Index Fund Admiral Shares, VFIAX, the ETF version I'll show you in just one second. This fund, very similar, it also has a 0.04% expense ratio for the index fund and a $3,000 minimum investment as an initial investment. This is the 500 largest companies by market capitalization in the United States. Current price for this index fund as of January 15th is $347.93. As you can see here, a hypothetical $10,000 10 years ago would now be worth very similar to what the total stock market would be worth, about $36,000, $37,000. As you can see here, the historical returns for the S&P 500 index fund are very similar to the total stock market. We've got the 1-year return at 18.37, the 3-year return on average 14.14 per year, 5-year return 15.18 on average every single year. The 10-year return 13.85% on average every year, and then since inception in November of the year 2000, the return is 7.28%. So very similar inception dates, about a year difference. So the dot-com bubble could be impacting the lower return for the S&P 500. There are 509 different holdings in the S&P 500 index fund. Top 10 holdings are, as you can see, very similar. We've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, and Visa. And those top 10 holdings, as you can see here, make up 28.6% of the total net assets as of December 31st. Very similar index funds. Quick clarifying point here, you should not own both of them. It's not really harmful to own both of them. They overlap so much with their holdings because they're both market capitalization weighted index funds. But there's no harm to it, but there's no added benefit either. They really overlap with each other. If you want the total stock market, that's fine. If you want the S&P 500, that's fine too. And then just as a quick note here, again, there is an ETF version. Remember, there's a $3,000 minimum investment for the Vanguard 500 Index Fund Admiral Shares. But if you go over here to the click on here, also available as an ETF, you can see that we've got VOO, which is the ETF version of the S&P 500, and their cost per share right now, $347.99. So both of these index funds, not together, but each individual one is a great option for you as a one fund portfolio. We've got a lot of time to invest, a long time horizon. You're okay with bumps along the way on your way up with your investment portfolio. These could be great options for you. Okay, second index fund investing strategy for Vanguard is utilizing the large, mid, and small cap index funds based on a ratio that you feel comfortable with. At different times throughout decades and history, large cap funds have overperformed, then mid cap, and sometimes small cap funds have overperformed. Actually, historically, small cap funds have performed the best. They have the most volatility over the long term. However, over the last decade, it's been all about large cap individual stocks as part of a portfolio. So you can utilize, if you'd like to take advantage of maybe small, you want to have all of them in there, but maybe you want to have a heavier weighting in small cap versus mid or large cap. You can do that with this portfolio here. 3 different funds, small, mid, large cap. I'm going to show you the index fund and the ETF. So the large cap index fund is VLCAX. And this covers, it's actually semi-similar to the S&P 500. It's got an expense ratio of 0.05% and that same minimum investment, $3,000. You can see here, if you click on, let's actually scroll down here, current price $89.24 per share. And you can see the historical returns. If you click on this as a month-end return, you've got 21% on the 1 year, 14% on the 3 year, 15.6% on the 5 year, 14% on the 10 year, and since inception in 2004, 9.88%. We look down here at the portfolio, it's got 560 stocks instead of 509, and top 10 holdings look very similar though to the S&P 500. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, blah, 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 blah. Top 10 holdings, 27.1%. This is very similar to the S&P 500. In fact, if you wanted to, you could actually hold the Vanguard S&P 500 fund instead of the large cap if you wanted to. The ETF version of this index fund is VV. Here, wait. There's waiting for the computer to load there. Vanguard Large Cap ETF is VV. Then we've got the Mid Cap Fund. We've got Vanguard Mid Cap Index Fund, Admiral Shares VIMAX. This tracks the medium-sized companies in the United States, 0.05% expense ratio. And we scroll down here, we can see that the historical returns as of December 31st, you've got 18.2%, 12.04, 13.28, 12.40, and 10.53 since inception, 1, 3, 5, and 10-year returns. In this mid-cap fund, we've got 349 different holdings. The top holdings, actually the first top holding is Twitter. Then we've got IDEXX, KLA, Synopsys, Amphenol, DocuSign, Digital Realty Trust, Chipotle. I love Chipotle, by the way. That wasn't relevant, but that was the first thought that popped into my head. Cadence Design, Align Technology. Top 10 holdings here in this fund make up 6.8% of the total net assets. You do get a real strong diversification with this fund. And then if we scroll up here, we can see that the ETF version of this fund is VO, I believe. Yeah, VO for the mid-cap ETF. And the fund price here doesn't have that 3,000 minimum, it's got a minimum of $213.82. Then we have the small cap fund, and that is the Vanguard Small Cap Index Fund, Admiral Shares, VSMAX. Same expense ratio, 0.05%. This covers all of the smaller companies in the United States. We scroll down here, it's got that same $3,000 minimum investment. Price per share right now is $98.47. And you can see the historical returns for the small cap fund. The 1-year return is 19.11%, 3-year return 11.22, 5-year return 13.6 on average, 10-year return 12.01, and since inception, 9.58%. 1,427 different stocks in this fund. Top 10 holdings make up only 3.3%, so a lot of diversification here in the small cap fund as well. And you can see here, it's also available as an exchange traded fund. The ticker symbol here is VB as in boy, VB. So this can be, like I said, a great fund for those of you that want to get exposure to the large, mid, and small cap companies in the United States, but you don't want to do it on a market capitalization weighted basis like you do with the total stock market. Instead, what you could do is maybe own a larger weighting in the small cap. Maybe you could go 25, 25, and 50, or 30, 30, and 40%, whatever you want to do there to capture more of the mid and small cap if you want to. Third strategy here is going to be the dividend income portfolio. Vanguard has 2 different index funds and exchange traded funds that track dividend stock portfolios. I personally, and you guys know this if you've watched my channel before, I really prefer picking individual dividend stocks. I feel like I've got the criteria down. I've shared that with you a number of times, how to pick quality dividend stocks rather than look at an overall dividend exchange traded fund. But that being said, that's not for everybody. I know that some people want to get dividend income. Some people love dividend stocks. They just want to own a dividend ETF instead of individual stocks. So Vanguard has 2 different funds here you can purchase. You can maybe blend your portfolio with both of them, but they're a little bit different. You have the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. Let me start with the index fund here. You've got the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Index Fund, Admiral Shares VDADX. And then we also have the Vanguard High Dividend Yield Index Fund. Let me click on the ETF. There we go. Vanguard High Dividend Yield Index Fund, Admiral Shares, VHYAX. Again, they both have that $3,000 minimum initial contribution. Expense ratio for high dividend yield is 0.08%. And for the dividend appreciation, it's also 0.08%. So they have different philosophies with these 2 funds. The Vanguard High Dividend Yield Index Fund is trying to get the highest yield based on the overall portfolio, whereas the Dividend Appreciation Fund is meant to track dividend stocks that pay a dividend, but not necessarily high dividend yields, but are growing that dividend and growing as a company as well. You can see that the dividend yield for the High Dividend Yield Fund is 3.16%, whereas that's right here, by the way. However, for the dividend appreciation fund, let me scroll down here and show you that, it's only 1.59%. So if you're looking for growth and a little bit of income, then maybe the dividend appreciation fund is going to be a better fit for you. If you're looking mostly for yield and you want to choose a Vanguard fund as opposed to individual stocks, then you want to choose the high dividend yield index. Let's look a little bit at the portfolio here. You can see here that the returns are 15%, 13%, 14%, and there's no 10-year return since it was funded in 2013. That's for the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund. For the high dividend yield, 1-year return is 1.14%, and that was created in 2019. I believe that the ETF has been alive longer than that. Let's pop over to the ETF. That's what I thought. The ETF has been available since 2006. So that might be a greater option for you here. 1% for the 1 year. 3-year return is 5.74. 5-year return, 9.98. 10-year return, 11.5, and then since inception in 2006, 7.67%. And I'll scroll down here to the portfolio. There are 410 different stocks in the high dividend yield ETF. We've got Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, Procter & Gamble, Verizon, Comcast, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, Merck & Company, Pepsi, and AT&T, all very large companies. The top 10 holdings in this portfolio, 24.1% of the portfolio. And then over here for the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund, we've got 212 different stocks. Top stocks here the top 10 make up 34.8%. We've got Microsoft, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, United Health, Walt Disney, Home Depot, Comcast, and Oracle. So a little bit different philosophy here between these two funds. I personally don't own either one in my own portfolio because I like individual dividend stocks. If that's the track you're on, you were looking for dividend income and you like dividend stocks, you want to learn more how to pick them, I've got a number of different videos on my channel. I will link to a few of them in the description below. By the way, I forgot to mention here, the ETF version of the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund is VIG. So VIG and VYM are the two. Okay, so next portfolio I want to talk about is what what's called the balanced portfolio, or the balanced fund. And that's where you take a portion of your portfolio and you put it in stocks and a portion in bonds. And you get a little bit more balance in your returns. You're gonna get less returns than stocks over the long term, but you get more balance year to year along the way. It's a less bumpy road to retirement. The way to do that with Vanguard Index Funds is to utilize VTSAX, which is the total stock market index fund. And then you've also got the total bond market index fund, which is the Vanguard Total Bond Market Index Fund, VBTLX. And so if we take a look here, we've got VTSAX, which we've already talked about. That's the total stock market. No need to address that any further, but the total bond market has an expense ratio of 0.05%. Still has that 3,000 minimum investment requirement. And it's got exposure here to a lot of US investment grade bonds. Reflecting this goal, the fund invests in US treasuries and mortgage-backed securities of all maturities, short, midterm, and long-term issues. You can see here the price per share for the total bond market index, $11.52 a share, and historical returns here, 7.72 on the 1 year, 3 years 5.4, 5 years 4.4, 10 years 3.8, and since inception 2001, 4.39. This is what you can expect from a bond fund. Not massive returns, not no return, but a very straightforward, simple 3, 4, 5%, depending on the different type of portfolio you choose. And this would be part of bringing balance to your fund. And so you can see here, US government funds make up 59.5% of the portfolio. Then you've got some AAA rated, AA, all the way down here that shows 100%. You can see number of bonds in the fund, 9,995. So quite a bit of diversification here with the bond fund. The general rule of thumb out there, I'm not gonna give investing advice per se, but the general one is to own a percentage of bonds based on your age. I think this is a little bit conservative, but it's out there. So if you were 30 years old, you would own 30% bonds, 70% stocks. I don't do this myself. I own 0% bonds right now. But as I get closer to retirement, maybe when I'm 50, 55, I will potentially start owning some bonds. That's just my own perspective. You might be more conservative. You might like the idea of a balanced fund. In fact, if you want to own one fund instead of two different index funds, you can own an actively traded mutual fund, one of the oldest, in fact, the oldest. If we look here, it was founded in 1929. The Wellington Fund, VWELX, that was founded in 1929. It's the oldest mutual fund and the nation's oldest balanced fund. Expense ratio is a little higher on this one, 0.25%. Still the same minimum $3,000 investment. Price per share, $44.37 per share. And then we've got performance returns here, historically since 1929, 8.35%. Since 1929, that's a pretty good long-term average. 1-year return is 10.6, 3-year return 9.38, 5-year return 10.76%, and 10-year return 9.85. We scroll down here further, you can see that the ratio here for this fund is 65.8% stocks and 30.81% bonds, and then 3.38% in short-term reserves. They only own 58 different stocks in the portfolio. Top holdings here make up 25.9% of total net assets. Microsoft, Google, Apple, Facebook, McDonald's, some of the largest companies. If you want to have a little bit more money to invest, you can purchase the Admiral shares version of Wellington. It's a little bit cheaper on the expense ratio, but the minimum investment, as you can see here, is $50,000. It's kind of expensive versus $3,000 for the actively traded Wellington fund. But you can see here, Wellington fund Admiral shares, 0.17% expense ratio, VWENX. So this might be the perfect portfolio for you. Those of you out there who are getting closer to retirement, maybe those of you who are a little bit more risk averse, you're concerned about dips in the market. All right, fifth portfolio we can talk about here is the growth portfolio. It incorporates large, mid, and small cap funds depending on the ratios you're looking for here. So we've got the large cap growth fund, mid cap growth fund, small cap growth fund. Large cap growth fund is VIGAX, that's the Vanguard Growth Index Admiral shares. It has an ETF version. You can click here on the ETF version, you get the Vanguard Growth ETF, VUG or VUG. ETF expense ratio 0.04%, and it's got a minimum here of only one price per share, which is $251.27. Whereas with the index fund, you've got the minimum of $3,000, expense ratio of 0.05%, and a price per share is $128.76. Minimum initial cost though, again, $3,000. The Vanguard Growth Index Fund has had excellent returns. Just the last year, 40%. The 3-year return, 22.97, 5-year, 20.32, 10-year, 16.67, and since inception in the year 2000, 8.28%. $10,000 invested 10 years ago would now be worth over $45,000, which is pretty epic. If we scroll down here to the actual portfolio, we've got 257 holdings in the large cap growth fund. You've got companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, companies we've already talked about. And these top 10 holdings out of 257, the top 10 make up 46.8%, so it's a heavy weighting on those top 10 funds. Then we have the Vanguard Mid Cap Growth Index Fund, Admiral shares VMGMX. It's also got an ETF version. Again, the same 3,000 minimum for this mid cap growth, but the ETF is VOT, I believe. Yeah, VOT. And it's got a minimum cost per share of $216.68. Expense ratio for the ETF is 0.07%. And for the Admiral Shares Fund, I believe it's a little bit higher. No, it's the same, 0.07%. In the mid-cap growth fund, we've got price per share, $92.73. Returns here, 34% on the 1 year, 3 year is 19.33, 5-year return, 17.18%, and since inception in September of 2011, 15.91%. We scroll down here to the portfolio, 162 different stocks in this mid-cap growth fund. Top companies here make up 13% of the assets. Twitter, a lot of the same companies. Twitter, DocuSign, Digital Realty Trust, and Chipotle Mexican Grill. Then we pop over here to the small cap growth fund, VSGAX, 0.07% expense ratio, $3,000 minimum. As always, the ETF is VBK, V Victor, B Boy, K King, $98.88 per share. And let's see here, let's look. Here's the returns. Historically, 1 year return 35, 3 year return 19.2, 5 year return 17.99, and since inception in September of 2011, 16.37. 611 different growth stocks in the small cap fund here. Top companies make up 7.4%. You've got companies like Enphase, MongoDB, Catalent? I don't know, Zendesk, Horizon Therapeutics. I've never heard of any of these companies. So Caesars Entertainment, I've heard of Caesars Entertainment. And then, so you've got these 3 different funds here, growth funds or ETFs, depending on the ratios you want to hold. If you want to hold larger percentage of the large cap versus the mid or the small, that's fine. You can hold them equally at 33.33% each, or you can own, maybe a larger weighting in the small cap growth funds, depending on your risk profile. Small cap generally has more volatility. All right, guys, last index fund strategy here. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I know that this video is a little bit longer, but this last version actually doesn't have an index fund or mutual fund version because it's not offered as a mutual fund, only as an ETF. And what we're talking about is the Vanguard Mega Cap ETFs. There's 3 different ones I want to show you here. So we have the Mega Cap ETF, MGC, which is a blend of the next 2. Mega Cap Value ETF at MGV, and then we have Mega Cap Growth ETF, MGK. So what are the Vanguard Mega Cap ETFs? So they track the performance of a specific index, the CRSP US Mega Cap Index. It's really a focus on the largest companies in the United States, the top largest companies. So you can see here, expense ratio 0.07% across all 3 of them. MGC is price per share $134.54. You'll see here, if you scroll down, the returns are pretty good. 1-year return 21, 3-year return 15.5, 5-year return 16%, 10-year return 14%, and this was created in 2007, 10%. If we scroll down here, the main one here has 235 different holdings, and it's going to include all the value and the growth stocks in here. So we've got Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, the same ones we've been talking about. Top 10 in the main Mega Cap ETF make up 33%. Then we look at the Mega Cap Value ETF, MGV. We can see here, we scroll down, it's got returns that are not quite as good as the overall fund. We've got 2.4 on the 1 year, 3 year is 7.3, 5-year return 10.97, 10-year return 11.33, and again, since December of 2007, 7.28%. 142 different stocks in the Value ETF. Top 10 holdings make up 26%. In the value, again, value versus growth, value companies are maybe longer term established. They're not growing at a significant clip as newer companies are. We've got Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Procter & Gamble, United Health, blah, 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 blah. Top 10%, 26.8% of the total assets. And then we have MGK, which is, I think, the top performing ETF that Vanguard has over the past year or 2. Vanguard Mega Cap Growth ETF, MGK. I've talked about this one a number of times on the channel. It's one that I've held historically in my Roth IRA. Market price here, $200.83 per share. And if we scroll down here, you can see that the 1-year return is 40%. 40%. 3-year return 23%, 5-year return 21%, 10-year return 17%, and 12.99% since 2007. You can see this growth here is insane. $10,000 10 years ago would now be worth about $50,000. We scroll down here a little bit further to the portfolio, we can see only 100 different stocks in this ETF. And the top 10 make up 57.2%. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla, Visa, MasterCard, Nvidia, and Home Depot. So a great portfolio option to choose here. You could just do the MGC, or if you prefer, you could own maybe just MGV and MGK, the value and growth at different weightings maybe. I own MGK in my Roth IRA, and so I just wanted to make you aware of that. This can be a great option for you that really want to double down on growth or just on the largest companies in the United States. That has been where the majority of the growth has been over the past 10 years. No guarantees on the future though. Hope you guys found some value out of this video. Make sure to leave your 2 cents in the comments below. Which of these fund strategies you already are using, which ones you might incorporate in your portfolio based on this video. If you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button, and hopefully I earned your subscription here. We talk all about Vanguard Index Funds, we talk about Fidelity Index Funds, we talk about all things investing for sure for the average Joe out there. We also talk about dividend stocks. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Hit that like button if you found some value here. But if you didn't find value, then by all means, don't hit the like button. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and please continue to stay healthy, both physically and financially. Have a good one.